So, as I've shared before, every emotion has a function. Those of you who have been working with me for a long time have likely seen the tiers of emotions. For those of you who've been working with me just maybe within the last year, maybe you haven't seen the tiers of emotions. The reason why I'm referring to this, just as a quick background, is I know I gave you the wheel of emotions, but I often use a tier of emotions, and it goes from highest frequency emotions to lowest frequency emotions. And I really like this because seeing emotions in terms of frequency as opposed to good or bad is very helpful. So, um, when you think of music, for instance, or a piano, the greatest pianists in some of the greatest um, songs or music written, they have a massive variety of notes, right? And quick, long, slow, soft, loud, and it's rich. If you only had five notes to play, there's no epic song with just five notes, right? So as a human in this life experience that we have, we are here for it all. We're here to experience the entire range of human emotions. If you are living a full life, you will. But you also want to have the resilience and the emotional intelligence and mastery to be able to go into the lower frequency emotions, but not stay there. We want to be able to come back up as well. And so I just find that that context is really helpful because we often look at emotions as good or bad, negative or positive. And when you look at a piano, there's no good or bad notes, right? Some notes you might like a little bit more than others. They might sound better to you than others. Other notes you wouldn't play very often if you could help it. You want to stay more here. And it's kind of similar to emotions. We have our favorite emotions. We want to stay here. We want to be able, though, to access the others and not get stuck. And so that is a framework and a mindset that I'd like to invite you into when it comes to emotions. And so hatred is one of those kind of emotions that obviously feels horrible. We don't like experiencing it and we don't like being on the receiving end of it. But it has a very important function. So if you want, take notes, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and hopefully this will be really clear. So hatred is on the very far end of anger. But can everybody really feel into the difference between anger and hatred? They're related, but they're not the same, right? And hatred is a bit of a culmination. So I'm taking this research as sort of there's some Brene Brown research, but there's another woman who I have done a lot of reading of, and her name is Carla McLaren. And I don't even know if she's a psychologist, but she's an emotional expert or an emotional researcher, and her work is really fascinating. And so a lot of this work is from her. So she describes hatred as a culmination or a combination of anger that includes a profound boundary violation with threat, disgust, and helplessness. So it's quite a concoction of emotions, and it's very protective. Hatred offers a very protective experience. It shows up in the following situations. A core value has been violated, not just once, but over and over and over. So repeatedly violated. A person feels chronically powerless or unseen. So again, on a very repetitive, ongoing basis, it's not just once or twice. A situation has crossed into feeling I'm not safe. So the territory of feeling unsafe. So situation or relationship. And essentially, the nervous system has run out of ways to say stop. So it's an alarm bell that has been ringing for a long time. Anger is something that can come up quickly, and when we deal with it, it can fade, right? Something only needs to happen once and we can get angry, we deal with it. We don't always, it can turn into resentment. If we don't deal with it and it turns into resentment and it keeps happening, it can turn into hatred. Okay, so that's one of the differences of anger versus hatred. Margaret, I see your emoji of wow, so something's landing. I'm hoping this is helpful or insightful. Feel free to put comments too, like if anything's really landing, feel free to repeat back, like just active and engaged learning or listening. Put in the chat, then it lets me know what's landing for you, but it's also really helpful for remembering. So the wisdom here, there's quite a few things or quite a few messages that a hatred can be bringing. So one is the violated boundary has gone unacknowledged for too long. Okay, so this is so very connected to what I've already shared. So we're just acknowledging it's gone unacknowledged for too long. And hatred gives urgent information that this line has been crossed so severely that you have lost access to your empathy. So can you all feel in the realm of hatred, you do not have any empathy left? There's no space for empathy, no space for compassion. You just have run out of it. Hatred protects identity, dignity, and self-worth. So the purpose of anger is to protect our boundaries and to protect our values. But when it's not allowed, when it's not acknowledged, or when it's not honored, then it can shift into hatred. And Carla McLaren shares that this is like a last ditch attempt to reclaim selfhood, right? To honor yourself. So it's a shield that we use or that forms, whether it's conscious or not, right? A lot of times we don't want to feel hatred, but there it is. So it forms when we feel too exposed, too harmed, too dismissed, or too obligated to stay in situations that injure us. Oh, so Margaret shares, wow, so powerful. Hatred's protective when a core value is violated. Yeah, and that is actually anger, but hatred shows up when it's violated repeatedly, over and over. Chronically powerless or unseen. Wow, mic drop. Yeah, I'm glad this is landing. So say that again. Hatred protects. Hatred protects, what did I say? Uh, Hatred is very protective. It protects boundaries that have gone unacknowledged too long. Was that it, Margaret? It protects identity, dignity, and self-worth. It protects your boundaries and your value. Okay. And there's two other pieces of wisdom. It exposes the part of us that has not been protected. So it points directly to an unhealed wound, to a truth that's been untold, to a self abandoned, and a boundary betrayed. So you don't need to write all those down. It's just enough to know that it's exposing the part of you that hasn't been protected. So it's a map. And if you can follow it or use it with compassion, it leads to the injury or the wound beneath it. So essentially, it points to where healing is needed. It points to where protection is needed. And then it has an ask. Hatred asks for distance and clarity. So the function, and I want to be really clear here because it often is expressed in very violent, destructive, scary ways. But the function is actually not that. It's not to make us violent. It's to make us awake. It's to wake us up. To take action to protect us. To reclaim the dignity that has been lost or unacknowledged. To set boundaries. To realign with values. And in terms of distance and clarity, we often need distance. We need to be able to create distance to see clearly and to remove ourselves from the harm. So can everyone feel that when you feel hatred, there's that like you want to just get away? So anger, we lean in. Anger, we tend to lean in. We're willing to fight. We're willing to, you know, lean in towards it and do something about it often. But in hatred, we tend to back away. Does that land? You want to create distance? You're like, I'm done. Get me out of here. So every emotion has a job. The need of hatred is to create distance. It's to help reclaim agency. It's to expose the root wound so it can be healed. It's to rebuild a boundary strong enough that allows for safety and dignity. I'm just curious, is this helpful so far? I think Margaret's enjoying it so far. I just want to check in with the rest of you. Is this interesting? Helpful at all? Okay, great. Okay, so I think that's all I want to share. I mean, there's definitely a process to work with it, but I think just for tonight, because we're now at 9, we can close here, and I think that that's probably enough. But I'm really happy to take questions about it, or even to hear like how this is landing, because it is anyone now looking at hatred a little bit differently than they have before? Does it feel a little bit less scary, a little bit more like something that actually now with this information you can use? I see heads nodding. Yeah. Patty shares less about the other and more about myself. Great. It's still it doesn't make it easy. It's still a very, very challenging emotion. And to set the boundaries, to create the distance, to do what a hatred is needing or asking of you, often will feel very unsafe in our nervous systems as people pleasers, as women who have been raised not to disappoint others. So it doesn't make it easy, but I hope that it can make it um, em- empowering. It can empower you more and give you a little bit more clarity about how you might be able to work with it if and when, more likely when, you experience it. Patch says it also explains anger, which I can relate to more often than hatred. Yeah, which is good. Anger is a very healthy emotion. It's often expressed in very destructive, harmful, hurtful ways. And so we often learn that it's scary. We're taught as women not to be angry, right? So we often have heard like, well, all the things related to like PMS or flying off the handle or losing your cool or, you know, go to your room until you have something nice to say or you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Like anger is just, we are shut off. We are cut off at the knees. Like, do not be angry. You're flying off the, I don't know, what do you hear? What have you ever heard when you're angry? What have parents and other people told you? You're flying off the handle or like, holy shit, cool down or got your panties in a knot or whatever it is, right? But anger is really healthy. It's very important. It's telling you that again, a boundary has been violated or perceived, or and injustice. An injustice or an unfairness has occurred, or once again perceived. And so the need with anger is to reinstate, to reinstill, to re-clarify boundaries. And once again, that's not easy when we are not allowed to disappoint, when we are not allowed to be powerful, when we have to be meek and meager and people pleasing. So, so sometimes this is like, I know this is much easier said than done, but that is the need of anger. Anger, when it's done when it's expressed in a healthy way, actually allows it to flow really much more like flow in, flow out quickly, but also it returns you into connection or keeps you in connection with yourself, but also often with the other person. So most of our experiences with anger creates disconnection because we do it in ways that are not clean, that are not healthy. But when we can learn how to work with anger in a healthy way, the way it's intended to be used, then we can maintain connection and strengthen connection even with the other. Mhm. So that one's fascinating as well. Patty, did you say Carla McLaren? Yes, and actually I think her name is spelled with a K. Carla with a K. Margaret, you're too emotional. Yeah, you're too emotional, irrational, unhinged, loud. Exactly. So we are told don't be angry. So as women, we often learn we can be sad but not angry. Men often learn the opposite. They can be angry but not sad. So it's not okay for men to cry. But also, you're too emotional, irrational, unhinged. I mean, we often are expressing anger in ways that are harmful because we've never learned how to express anger in ways that maintain connection. So anger is still really important, but it's also really important to be able to express it in clean, healthy ways, or we do create disconnection and sometimes destruction and harm, not just to ourselves, but others. Yeah. Okay, so any questions? Okay, this was valuable. Awesome. Yeah, Margaret, perfect. Okay, you ladies are already finding some great resources. Yeah, beyond words. Wonderful. Okay, so let's take a minute here. I invite you to unmute the lines. Thank you, ladies, for being with me and for your interest in emotions. This is one of my areas that I'm always fascinated by. And I had a newsletter going, The Wisdom of Emotions. Every month I would send one out about different emotions. And it took me a very long time to do. And I just got busy and it fell on the wayside. But I love this stuff. So in our coaching sessions, if you ever want to dive more into the wisdom of emotions and things like that, then we can do that too. Margaret, so good. Mind blown. I needed this. Awesome. I'm so glad, Margaret. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Fascinating. Wonderful. Okay, so thank you to Karen for bringing this up. Hopefully, Karen will catch the recording. This will be helpful to Karen too. And ladies, I hope that you all have a wonderful evening. So let's